Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of CBT Now right here at the CBT Automotive Network. Joining us now to continue the conversation on tariffs and what it will mean for our industry as well as consumers is Brian Benstock, partner and GM and Vice President of Paragon Honda and Paragon Acura. He's also keynote speaker, author, and all-around great guy for us in the retail automotive sector. So Brian, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule there in New York to spend some time with us. And I know that a lot of people in the industry look to you to say, Brian, are we going to be okay? Are we in bad times here, or do we just have to take a deep breath? So I'll let you pick it up there. What impacts are you seeing in the industry right now?
Jim, the news is we're going to be okay. You know, in the end, it's going to be okay. And if it's not okay right now, it's not the end, as John Lennon famously said. I think we're the tariffs and the approach that the president's taking will take time, but I do support our president. I supported President Biden. I support President Trump, and I think he needs to do what he needs to do to get the economy on track and to get the nation on track. And I think that some of the measures he's putting in place are going to be long-term very good for the country.
Yes, yes. As we know that there's about 3 million vehicles sitting on lots around the country right now. As one dealer said, he said, we have a little bit of leeway here. We got a little bit of breathing room, even though the president is working this out in D.C. and with his counterparts around the world. Are you feeling the same way, as though you've got a good inventory of cars, and let's see how this plays out?
Well, you know, the day supply for Honda is a little bit tighter than some of the other manufacturers. Thankfully, we manufacture a good percentage of our cars, better than 70% here in the United States of America. I hope that we come to a resolution for this situation in short order. You know, and I think we're seeing many of the other global leaders are moving quickly to resolve this. I heard 50 were at the White House or calling the White House yesterday, and I think it's in their intelligent self-interest that they have fair trade, not just free trade, but fair trade. So I think the president's accomplished something on behalf of Americans. I think it's great that we've got somebody going to bat for us, and you know, it's yet to play out, but I think the markets on this side were stabilizing today, and you know, again, let's give it a chance to see how these things play out.
You think it was a wake-up call when the president held up that chart in his press conference to say, here's the inequity here? I mean, I think a lot of people said, whoa, we didn't realize those countries are charging those kind of tariffs for American-made products going into their countries.
You know, Jim, I think, you know, many of the people on the other side, I can remember Nancy Pelosi saying addressing this, and I remember Chuck Schumer addressing this, and President Obama addressing this verbally, but not really taking the painful steps to address it. You know, and it's difficult to tell a nation, hey, we're going to cut you off if you don't resolve this. Sure. And you know, again, many politicians say things and then don't do things. Right. I think President Trump, like him or dislike him, he does what he says and he says what he does. So you know, I think it's been pretty interesting to see what's happened over the past couple of days. Yeah,
we saw March finish very, very strong. Would you attribute that to the tariff situation and consumers coming in saying, I better beat that 25% tariff and get my car now?
Yeah, I do believe so. There's some uncertainty in the market. Nobody likes uncertainty. I don't like uncertainty. You don't like uncertainty. Right. Uncertainty is not good. And I think a lot of people, we may have pulled some deals forward with customers trying to get on-ground inventory. You know, many of the manufacturers may find this short term a pretty good thing. I saw some of the days supply on some of the OEMs, and it was north of 100 days supply. Wow. So they may very well welcome the relief. I saw a couple of the European manufacturers threaten to not ship cars over here. And I said to my wife, that's not really a threat. We thank goodness for not shipping the cars over. Yeah. And in all seriousness, you know, there may be some relief there for some of the guys that have had pretty high day supply.
Yeah, good point. We saw Mercedes-Benz yesterday make the announcement that they're going to absorb as much of that increase as possible, you know, to the foreseeable future. What's your take on that, and do you think we'll see other brands follow suit?
I thought Ford took a great approach. I was watching the NCAA game last night, and I saw an ad for a Ford pickup, and it was a fantastic ad. Made here, born here, built here,
Right.
and really a great ad. And you contrast that with some of the other manufacturers that have announced they're going to raise prices. I really scratched my head. Why would you ever announce that? Be silent to that if you're going to raise the prices.
Yeah.
And so I think some of the other manufacturers holding the line and announcing they're holding the line, and some of the other manufacturers absorbing it and letting people know. I think that's a very wise approach. Those manufacturers that can do that should announce it. I think Nissan announced some discounted prices, and I think that that brand could certainly use all the relief that they can get. So I think that was a smart approach. But I think announcing that you're going to increase the price, I would reconsider that approach.
Right. Do you think we'll see Honda talk about the fact that 70% of the vehicles are assembled and made here in the U.S.? I mean, that's a pretty strong number for a foreign brand. Do you think they'll get that word out there to the consumers?
Honda has been manufacturing cars in the U.S. since 1982. Honda is a very humble company. They don't like to brag. They play with their cards very close to their chest.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of information that shows the number of jobs that Honda has here. Honda's long had a policy of building cars where they sell them. Mm-hmm. This is not a policy that they've had recently. Like I said, they build vehicles where they sell them. We do have some assembly plants in Canada. We do have some assembly plants in Mexico, and we are going to be affected by this, like every other manufacturer. But I do think we're going to be in pretty good shape compared with some of our competitors.
Yeah, yeah. The UAW seems to be very happy about all of this. Buy American and build factories here in America. I mean, it was Sean Fain that was so dead set against a Trump presidency, and now he seems to be his biggest supporter.
Well, what is an American car today? I know many of the manufacturers. There was a dealer that had a particular. I think he had a Dodge on his showroom floor, and he said he's going to be hit by the tariffs because many of the parts came from other places. So what is an American car? I'd like to see. I don't have a problem with cars that whose origin were foreign but are built in the United States of America and being built by American workers. I think that's wonderful. I think what Honda's done and some of the other OEMs have done by building them here and having manufacturing here is important. I think President Trump brought up a key point. Having and sourcing parts here makes us independent. Look what happened with the chip shortage. It affected not just the automobile industry, but every industry. Cell phones and computers. We were reliant on I think it was Taiwan for chips, and they shut down the nation. We can't have that happen. Right. It's unthinkable. There's one plant supplying chips for the world.
It's crazy.
How can we single source anything? And I think that should be a wake-up call, that we're relying on, God forbid, some other place. So I think it's a good wake-up call. And I think bringing some of those jobs back. Ross Perot said when he was running for president, when he was alive, running for president, that NAFTA is the worst thing that can happen. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but he said you're going to hear a large sucking sound, and those are American jobs going overseas.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was right. Manufacturing jobs left. And I think it would be a wonderful thing for those jobs to come back to the U.S. And this is not against foreign auto manufacturers. I love our foreign auto manufacturers. I sell Hondas, right? But it's great for the industry to bring those jobs here to the United States. And I think it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure. We're all eyes are on the Fed for them to lower rates. Everybody's pointing to interest rates to help offset this situation. Is that a move you think they should make?
You better believe it. I mean, it helps every American. We're a consumer nation that borrows money, credit cards, car loans, mortgages. Everything we do is based on that. And we've forgotten people are complaining about President. We forgot that the interest rates went up 300 and some odd percent, right?
Yeah.
From a base of 2 to 7 and change, and the speed at which those interest rates rose. I mean, every single consumer got hit there, and we need some relief there. I mean, it's decimated real estate. It's decimated the consumer, and the inflation went through the roof. And it's time we get some relief. And the Fed's bragging that they're independent. And so, we've got someone in the White House fighting that independence for us. And whether that person's a Democrat or a Republican, I don't care. They're fighting for us. Look at our floor plan charges. We've got dealers I know have 50, 60, 70 million dollars and more in floor plan. And those interest rates now are triple what they were just a couple of years ago. So give us a break. Give us a break. The manufacturers now are back at capacity, pushing cars on us, and our carrying costs are through the roof. So yes, I think it's a great thing to see the interest rates go down. Yeah. Yes, it's a great thing for us to refinance the federal debt at a lower rate. Yes, I think it would be a great thing to see those interest rates come down, for sure.
If I had asked you 3 years ago, do you think the Republicans would be in such favor of Teslas and Democrats would be stone, cold against them? You'd say, Jim, you're crazy, right?
Hypocrisy is unbelievable. You had a bunch of people telling you got to buy a Tesla, and now those same people are doing unthinkable things to Tesla.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing that.
I agree.
I think Elon Musk is a genius.
Yeah.
I think he's done for our industry is incalculable. I think it's really wonderful. Even though he's a competitor,
right.
it's raised the game, it raised the bar for everybody, and people turning their frustration, anger, and misunderstanding against Americans that build those cars. Because who's getting hurt?
Yeah.
Shareholders of Tesla, and ultimately the people that manufacture and are employed by Tesla. I think it's terrible.
That's right. There's no question. Last point, and that is used cars. Talk to us about that. What's your take on the used car industry and what we're going to see here in the short term and the long term?
Well, short term, we're going to see, we've already seen it, a price increase. You've got a 5 to 10% increase in price. And you had a shortage before this happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's we're going to feel some real pressure there because, the COVID bubble hit with the lack of lease returns coming back. Our lease returns are down substantially. As the volume was down 3 years ago, you've got a lot less cars coming off lease now. We're a very strong lease market here in the Northeast. Many of my fellow Honda dealers and Acura dealers lease a high percentage of their cars.
Yeah.
So, 3 years ago during COVID, we sold and least a lot less cars or a lot less renewals coming back to us. So we're trying to conquest. Well, guess what? Everybody else is trying to conquest too.
Right.
So there's a lot less coming back, and that's an industry problem. And now with potentially less cars coming in from overseas, we're going to see scarcity of inventory. So I think the used car market is going to continue to be tight, and the prices are going to continue to be going up. So the auction is going to be a pretty active place to be.
Yeah. I'm going to let you take the last word here. What message do you want to share with your colleagues in the industry, with the 18,000 dealers that are out there? Many of them watch CBT News and many of them look to you for your opinion on this. But what's your message to them as we sit here today in early April?
The optimist wins in the end. Be optimistic. Our industry is the most resilient industry in the world, and I think we're going to be just fine. We always find a way to win. I think agility is going to be key. You've got to be flexible, watching what's going on. And I think we're looking to build the smarter dealership in the future. Jim, you and I were talking the other day about that. Dealers have to be adapting to technologies now to change our DMS into a more intelligent IMS so we can serve more customers quicker, faster, and more cost effectively, like many other industries are doing. And I think that's really an important message for us to be able to adapt much quicker than we've ever adapted before.
Yeah, for sure. Brian Benstock, partner, GM, VP Paragon Honda and Paragon Acura. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here at CBT News.
you.
As I said, a lot of dealers look to you to say, hey, what's Brian think about this? So thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. Great to be with you.
Thanks.